I'm Eric Matisik, President and CEO of Highwing and co-founder of Denver Startup Week. This year's Denver Startup Week has never been more important. It takes a community to rebuild a community, and this week is about showcasing and highlighting the entrepreneurs and small business leaders leading through resilience and showing us a path forward. The best of Denver is in front of us, and may this week inspire you to be part of its story. Before we dive in, we want to say a special thank you to our title sponsors, Downtown Denver Partnership, JP Morgan Chase, Prologis, and Zero. And our track sponsors who've made all the great content you're hearing today possible. Battery 621 and Public Works, Capital One Cafe, Colorado Lending Source, Friday Health, Quizlet, Exactly, Zayo, and Zestful. Our headline and event sponsors are bringing the excitement this week. Thank you to Wix, Kinzon, MAPR Agency, Obsidian HR, Kickstart Fund, Promontory Mortgage, Molson Coors, and Comcast. Finally, thank you to our partner and member sponsors listed on the screen. Thank you for your support of Denver Startup Week. Without you, it's not possible.
Welcome everyone to Denver Startup Week. You are attending an event in the Maker Track, which focuses on all things physical products. My name is Lauren Kluk. I run marketing and communications at Colorado Lending Source. I'm also a former Maker Track's chair, and I'm incredibly passionate about helping small business owners and entrepreneurs. Over the last 5 years, Colorado Lending Source has been a sponsor for the Maker Track, and we just love this organization because it really aligns with our mission, which is to foster the economic growth of diverse small businesses within our communities. Celebrating our 30 years of lending, we've helped over 4,000 businesses, creating over 30,000 jobs, injecting nearly $4.9 billion into the economy. Our loans range from $5,000 up to $5.5 million for a variety of business purposes. We're also a Kiva lender, which are crowd-funded loans up to $15,000 with 0% interest rates. When the pandemic hit, our team immediately shifted focus and created emergency loan funds for underserved businesses. We also facilitated over 700 Paycheck Protection Program loans and fielded thousands of requests regarding emergency funding for small businesses. All this said, we are an organization that truly cares about our borrowers and our small business community. If you'd like to learn more about our programs or what we do, please visit us on our website or feel free to shoot me an email. Thanks so much for having me. Hopefully we can meet in person one day, and enjoy your session.
Hey everyone, and happy Denver Startup Week. I'm Michael Ostro. I'm the Maker Track Chair and member of the Denver Startup Week Organizing Committee. As you probably know, this is the first ever completely virtual Denver Startup Week, which is huge. We're doing so much behind the scenes and making sure to give you the best content we could possibly find and curate the best sessions. This session is definitely included in that. If this is your first session that you're tuning in on, welcome. Though it is Thursday, so you've probably been tuning in on some other sessions, so welcome back. If there's one thing that 2020 taught us, it's coming together as a community is extremely important. Maybe you learned some other stuff during quarantine. I know I've learned a ton personally, but it's really cool also at the same time to sit on your sofa and do work. But if there's one of the biggest things that we strive for as Denver Startup Week, it's creating a safe space to learn, grow, and connect. And that's regardless of gender identity, gender expression, race, ability, sexual orientation, and any combination of those identities. Check out the other Maker Track sessions. They're going to be recorded later on. You can check out, and there's one more this afternoon. Thanks for tuning into this session because this is going to be an absolutely incredible session. Use the chat function during it. I know the session organizer, Ian Kelly, will have the questions on his phone and be able to answer any questions that come through. But this panel is absolutely amazing. And just thanks again to the panelists. Thanks again for everyone that's tuning into this. And Ian, thanks for putting on the session. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. Have fun.
Awesome. Hey, how's it going, everybody? Thank you so much, Michael, for the opportunity. We're all super excited to be here. Thank you to everybody in attendance. We think this is going to be a nice little discussion. We're going to keep things nice and informal, but we hope you learned something. The title of our session here is Blazing New Frontiers, Life as a Maker in the Cannabis Industry. So I'm sure you've all heard a little bit from the other makers if you've been on some other panels, but we think that the cannabis industry specifically kind of has a unique perspective here. The cannabis industry as a whole is definitely tricky to navigate. It's very dynamic and very unstable. So you combine that with the life of a maker, and it really makes for an interesting career path. So again, my name is Ian Kelly. I'm here with Gustavo Pop, Will Brakel, and Lauren Mealy. And we're going to give a quick intro about ourselves, and then we'll get started on this conversation here. So, Lauren, you want to start?
Sure. So, hi, my name is Lauren. I'm the owner of Kush Cards, which are cannabis greeting cards where you can strike a match and light what's attached. I'm from New York, and I moved my business to Colorado around 2016, where we are still here.
Yeah, my name is Will Brakel. I'm the founder of Lazy Susan. We're a consumer-focused products company. We make everything from rolling trays to rolling papers and everything in between. We're consumer focused, and we love making products for stoners. My background is I actually I went to a military college, majored in business and economics, and was actually in finance before I moved to Colorado. That really showed me kind of the opportunity here in the cannabis space, and from there, the rest is history.
Hi, my name is Gustavo Pop. I'm originally from California. That's where I was introduced to the cannabis industry. Was supposed to be answering phone calls, but decided that I can make changes in the company that I started working for. Over time, now I moved to Colorado in 2016. So from there, I started Bronco Distribution, and now we are servicing stores in Colorado and around the nation. So that's something that we're looking forward to expanding more over the future.
And really quickly, again, I'm Ian Kelly. I actually work here at Lazy Susan as well. I run our marketing, and I have a few years of experience in the industry before that, working in CBD, doing marketing and communications as well. So, I'm really looking forward to getting this conversation going and talking about some cool stuff. So I guess really quick, just to start, why don't we have you all kind of explain what you actually make? What are the physical products that you make, and how do they fit into the industry?
Gotcha. So I'll start. So I make all things stoner stationery. So from greeting cards to one-hitters to notebooks to tissue paper to gift bags, anything really hallmark of marijuana kind of related, I would say. I started my company because there was a void in the cannabis industry for how to get marijuana. It was always just how to sell it, how to buy it. So it was really fun to kind of bring the consumer with an experience and tie that two together. Where I fit in the industry is I believe I created my own niche of gifting to be able to give something like a Lazy Susan in one of our bags to consumers. Also, I took something like, for instance, like a polka dot, and I made it a polka pot. So I just changed the design a little bit to a marijuana leaf, and now I took something that's in everyday stores and made it available for cannabis consumers. So we're really about a gift with the lift, things that you can attach pre-rolls to, cards, and all things in between. So all things stoner gifts.
Awesome. Yeah, I guess I'll go next. So at Lazy Susan, we started making rolling trays, and if you haven't checked us out or don't know by the name, we're a play on the product Lazy Susan. So we took kind of an existing concept and existing products basically, and just like Lauren, in a way, kind of put our little cannabis spin on it.
Absolutely.
And from there we started to really kind of work around the user experience, making trays for people's homes, to improve their home cannabis experience. And that's sort of where we fit into that industry is, we're kind of the home product base, something where you can organize and kind of solve those problems that, before cannabis has this kind of stigma behind it. And, there's a lot of people that consume cannabis that want to stay neat, want to stay organized, and want to give gifts. And, they want to, have that experience that, is basically not been out there. So there's a whole lot of new frontier. And another product that we made is pink rolling papers, which was, something that we launched shortly after, just based on, basically consumers asking us for these sort of products when we can say, hey, here's something, would you guys buy this? So we're ultimately all about kind of consumer feedback, consumer communication, and talking to the end user and saying, hey, will you use this? And if so, what do you like most about it? And that's basically how we developed a product line. So we have products from, rolling trays to papers to, apparel and all sorts of things. So we've created a cool brand out of it, and that's kind of where we fit. So we're a niche brand in a growing market.
For myself, Bronco Distribution, we distribute to smoke shops, and now we're starting to do dispensaries as well. We try to stay on top of all the products that are in the market that customers are always looking for, or if it's a new product that customers are looking for, we try to suffice that to smoke shops. So for us, it's staying on top of the trends, and we're slowly transitioning to where we build the trends. So we're started communicating with factories, and we're doing R&D into developing our own products, which eventually we hope to just go ahead and push our own brands, where we will do similar to Will, where we talk to the consumer and develop something from there, not reinventing the wheel, but actually making it a little bit better. But as of right now, our store just pretty much carries over 5,000 products that we sell to smoke shops and now dispensaries as well.
So I kind of want to circle back to something that Will mentioned. You mentioned something about the stigma. I'm curious, as business owners in the cannabis space, how do you navigate that stigma associated with cannabis while also operating a legitimate business?
Yeah, so I would say kind of the stigma, around my business kind of started with my parents. They were like, you should not do this, don't go out and get into this industry, you're never going to get a job afterwards. These things where, people really look at this industry as almost like a red mark on your resume, some sort of almost like a black spot, there's all kinds of metaphors, but we really took the approach, since day one, we're real adamant believers in the medicinal properties of cannabis, and, using that data and that science as a way to say, hey, listen, you might think that, cannabis users are all this way because of, Cheech and Chong and all these kind of media sources that were perpetuated for the last 30, 40 years, as cannabis has been illegal. And we're basically opening that up and educating people and saying, hey, you need this. You might need a tray that's convenient for your house because, it's something where if you have arthritis or, there's all sorts of reasons that more so than I think people understand, where they need to use cannabis, and making products around that is something that's really improving people's lives. And that's what is what makes me passionate and keeps kind of us projecting that direction of, saying, hey, we're all about education and you can have a good time too. And I think that that's a lot of business owners in this industry. We see both sides, and we want to be a positive light as well as understanding of hey, this is also, a fun substance, but, to take it seriously.
Also, I think cannabis is essential now, so I think the stigma should be interesting to see as we go into 2021, who kind of keeps with that stigma. But as far as push cards, I think the only stigma I get is when I'm at trade shows outside of the cannabis industry. So gift shows, the New York Stationery Show, where we got looked at like we were crazy. We were the only cannabis-themed product that was at a trade show full of greeting cards and gifts and pillows, anything you could think of. So I think what we bring to the market and helping change the stigma is that, hey, we have something that obviously thousands of people sell, buy, use every day. And just, again, adding that cannabis twist on it. But retailers, mass market, anyone not in the cannabis industry still looks at me like, we're not ready for you. We're not ready for this. And I think it's such, I unfortunately think it's a loss on their part, because we're here, we're ready, we are the frontiers doing this. So I just know that they definitely will be back. So we're just gonna be here, so we'll be ready. And I think only good things to come from here, though.
Similar experience like you had, and same with you. My parents, when I first started, when I was about to move from California to Colorado, they said, no, don't do this. Go work somewhere else. Like, put your degree into work. But I decided to keep going forward. But I haven't, aside from what I read from the news and talking to credit card processors or banks, I haven't really felt that stigma where where they talk bad about the industry, mainly because I surround myself in the industry as much as I can because I enjoy it. I have a lot of fun.
Fairly successful.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
So speaking of credit card processors and stuff like that, for some of the people here in this panel or in this presentation that might not be too familiar with the ins and outs of the industry, maybe you guys can kind of speak on some of the unique challenges that the cannabis industry specifically faces and how you navigate those. You want to start? Or?
sure. Yeah, sure. I'll start. So since Kush Cards is one of a kind product, again, greeting cards where there's a slot on the card where you can insert your own pre-roll, or it comes with a one hitter, 2 match strikers on the bottom so you can strike the card. It was really hard from New York when I started to not only explain to customers, social media, everyone what this product was, how to use it, but also why dispensaries, smoke shops, any really store, adult stores needed a greeting card when their focus was only to sell cannabis or only to sell pipes and accessories. Here I brought this whole new touch to the industry, but that did take time. I mean, we are in year 5, so it took time to really develop, my strengths in how to in-store promote it, out-of-store promote it. And that's ultimately why I moved to Colorado, was because it was time to just go cold sales, go right into dispensaries and say, here's a sample, here's what it is. So, and eventually, as time caught on, things definitely changed, but also credit card processors is a huge, I'm sure each one of us has a story about that, but that was also a challenge, but we fight through. So we're here.
Yeah, and I touch on that too, with credit card processing and like products, right? So, everything that we all do here is sort of a gray area for a lot of these banks and financial institutions where, we're making products that are made for cannabis users, but they're ultimately not cannabis.
Right,
So it's like something where a banker is going to look at this and say, I know this is for weed, so I'm scared of it.
Yeah, perfect.
And I want to charge you more probably as a credit card processor because it's high risk.
Right.
So those are kind of the things that we, I'm sure I'll deal with and trying to find the right people and, not getting lumped under paying a super high rate of like a CBD company or even higher as like a THC selling company where, they're going to be paying much higher fees. If we're just selling something that if it didn't have any cannabis on it or didn't, wasn't related to the industry, we would be, there would be no questions asked. And that's sort of the struggle I feel like is educating these payment processors. And there's a lot of people that are coming around and realizing how much opportunity for them ultimately there is in the cannabis industry. Because it's like, if you're afraid of this money, like that's totally fine. But just so you know, like this isn't going anywhere and it's only growing.
Essential part.
We're now essential.
Yeah.
I'll touch on that again.
Well, I mean, my experience, it's gotten a lot easier over time. So I've been in the industry for a little bit over 10 years now, and it's gotten a lot easier. So like we don't like before you would have to not necessarily say your company name. So other things will follow, and I won't release any more secrets. But but now it's gotten a lot easier. But the same thing, like you said, like percentage rates, you got to find the right people to get the right percentage. And if you're someone that wants to get into the cannabis industry, start selling products like this, biggest advice that I can give anyone, some rules have gotten a little bit lenient. Don't use PayPal or any other ones because they will hold your money.
Yes.
They will hold your money. Do all your research you can
every day.
to get credit to get a credit card processor because PayPal or Square is getting a little bit lenient, but PayPal will definitely freeze your funds and you'll never see that again. That's an experience that I've learned.
I've also heard some horror stories like where like these guys had like $20,000 and they just left it in their PayPal balance.
Yeah. Don't do it.
Don't leave any money in the PayPal.
PayPal's not good for this industry.
It's good to start. It's easy to start.
What do you guys use now?
It's funny because we actually still use PayPal as one. Yeah, so PayPal is one of our sources. So
I love it.
That's kind of one thing that we actually tell banks is like we're like, hey, PayPal hasn't kicked us off yet, so obviously we're still not that bad. And it's almost like an arbitrary. It's like an arbitrary thing, but ultimately it's like. If you try to sell CBD on PayPal, you're going to get kicked off instantly. I think like if you sell like glass or, maybe certain things, but ultimately, you're going to have you're going to have the day of reckoning come where some auditor is going to come to your website and be like, this, you have to take this off your website, you can't have this, like if there's a photo of someone smoking, or, there's all these things that, credit card processors are looking for. So it's, it really is all about, I think, finding the right one and making sure they're cool. 420 cool.
420 friendly, yeah.
So what are, that sounds like, I think in any industry, any business owner is going to learn some hard lessons by trial and error along the way. Whether it be a money situation like that or, with product development. What are some other, hard lessons you learned along the way just by messing up that you think somebody in this chat could maybe benefit by, getting that early heads up?
Which one?
Right, I'm over here like, okay, so is it in production field? Is it in marketing field? Is it in social media field?
I'll jump off with this is a pretty fun example. So this is the first time I ever bought anything from China.
I was gonna say the same.
We started kind of our first products. We're making them like in the U.S. and we make rolling trays, right? But we wanted to make these little metal dab tools, right? Something very small. It was a very experimental phase, like the second thing I had ever produced under the brand, and was like, all right, I'm going to try this out. Ended up kind of like ordering these dab tools, and I got one sample from one factory. And then I just was like, what, I'll just order from the next factory. I won't get a sample beforehand. And then when the product showed up, they all melted almost under like a lighter would melt them. So this is something that's designed to be high temperature resistant. It's supposed to be stainless steel, and I have 1,000 of these things that just melt, and basically, had like lead, or I had no idea what it was bad. So, always make sure you get a sample first.
Similar story, actually.
Because, especially dealing with any, if you can't go there and talk to the guy, or you can have someone go there and talk to the guy in person for you, then, you definitely have to be careful and make sure that you're holding these people accountable for what they're sending.
I totally agree. Always a sample. So my first experience ordering Kush cards in bulk, about 5,000, 1,000 of each style, was really hard to even pick what styles I was going to get, whatever. So we product developed, did the whole thing, and then I'm like, everything is great. They show up, and I never went through how they packed them. So when I showed up, they were in boxes that, I know it's coming from like far away or wherever, but basically with my cards, there's a string that goes in. So the card. So basically, when I opened the cards, all the cards were pressed down. So on the inside of each card, there was a small dent from the wire that you had to feed through the card so you can hold the pre-roll or your choice of choosing. And that's the most important card, I think, at the inside is more than it's the both. They go hand in hand because that's where you're writing and things like that. But I was devastated because it was my first time getting, quantities of thousands of cards. So that was a challenge. We did put stickers over them, though. It's fun home inside. We can adapt to anything. I've spelled things wrong on cards before. There's a sticker for that, I promise.
We actually did not. We just threw those away.
Oh, no. I couldn't. I had to figure out a way. I had to. It was one of those investments that you couldn't see go. So, but sometimes they are. So.
Well, with me, no product like that yet, because luckily I have mentors.
Never.
No, not yet.
You got the sample.
But no, I had a mentor that kind of like run me through things. It was like so that kind of helped there. So that's awesome. But to me, it was actually when I first started the company in Colorado. I had 0 clients, very little product, absolutely very little product, and I would drive everywhere, as many smoke shops as I can, knocking doors, like cold calls or whatever you want to call it. You read the success books when they say it's like, oh, you gotta keep pushing, keep trying, but you get this courage, you get that, but like, I listened to actually someone that told me, because I was ready to give up. I had 10 no's. I visited 10 stores, and all of them told me no. It's like, no, we don't need it. We're good. And there was one person that said, you're doing well. You have good products. You got to adapt. And I was like, oh, like you read that all the time that you have to adapt and do that. And that's when I had to change my strategy from thinking that I'm here big, this guy from California, I was very successful there. I can succeed here, and I had to change my strategy within the first week. Otherwise, I was going to fail. So, I mean, that's what I would say is like always adapt and don't give up, because that was my thing. And now here I am.
That's awesome.
5 years.
That's awesome. Here you are. Here we are. So I kind of want to take it back to the actual product angle of things now. What is your creative process like? I'll ask each of you guys like this. Like, what does it look like having that initial idea and then bringing that to life and then bringing that to market and, like you kind of said earlier, convincing people that they want or need this?
Right.
So I guess you can, talk about maybe your inspiration, and then also I'm curious about, I know personally, Will, you've kind of put together this crazy supply chain that touches all corners of the globe. How do you teach yourself to do that? I know that, you can't really learn that in school or something like that. That's kind of something you have to learn on the fly. So how did that work with your initial product, bringing that idea to life? And then how do you do that now when you have a new idea?
Yeah, I'll take this one. Start it off. So ultimately the creative process for me kind of began with cannabis. So I first moved to Colorado, and I'll just give you this example for the first product that really started the whole brand was the Blazy Susan spinning rolling tray. It was something where I just moved to Colorado. I was coming from a military school where I had a rule book 50 pages thick on how my room had to look with pictures, and it had to match those pictures. So, very regimented. And I moved into this house. There's 5 people in there. There's like 10 bongs on the coffee table. And then they end up getting me so high. This was like the first time actually being in Colorado and smoking like Colorado, cannabis, which is a lot better than on the East Coast, where I'm from. And, it basically kind of came to my head. It was like, hey, like there needs to be something to kind of clean this up. And the name kind of popped into my head, and the concept, was something that I saw like, hey, we need to clean this up. And then 3 years later, really, after talking to people, we actually put it into production and saying like, hey, we're really going to start this process. So, I think the first thing for me was to identify a need, and then kind of come up with that solution in a way, even though it wasn't fully crystallized. It was just like, hey, if you had this thing that could clean up all your bongs and it cost you like $80 and it was called Blazy Susan, would you buy that? Yes. And that's like kind of how we started, was just talking to people and seeing their feedback on just the concept and then on the name and kind of like that price point. So, you want to, really get as much data from the customer. So that's where I was focused, was talking to people, trying to get people to sign up for these little surveys and getting people getting people to, to give me, their information, because ultimately that's the most valuable source of anything. People go out and pay, they'll pay a consulting firm to go ask people questions for you, but you can do that yourself. And in the same aspect, I feel that also builds a relationship with the customer, so that, we had people that I had talked to, in 2017, and then, fast forward 3 years later, they'd buy the product. And I had talked to them about it 3 years before we had anything. And so it's like being able to kind of start from, the solution or the problem, figure out the solution, and then, moving into like kind of the trial and error, making different prototypes and ultimately trying to figure out what is economically, feasible for you to produce. So that's probably, I would leave it at that. If you guys want to touch on something on that.
For me, I would say that some of the products that I have designed and then, gone to fruition from manufacturing point. Sometimes you don't, like, I think I mentioned it earlier, where you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And so some of the products that I have actually pushed out, you just have to fix like one little thing. And that's pretty much you gotta like know the product itself.
That's what we did.
Yeah. And so that's pretty much what I've done, is like I see a particular product. If it's popular, you got to know that product, customers have bad reviews for it. There's no product that is a 100% 5-star.
Right.
So I will see what customers complain. Well, except for you guys. But I mean, I would see like the complaints that customers, will have, and then I would take that from there and then develop it.
Feedback.
So feedback. So, and that's kind of one of the things that Will said. But at the same time, you can also be creative from what they have said, and that's what I've done.
Sure. So for Kush cards, I smoke about it. I mean, I say but really we, because there's so many people who are involved with every card that I come up with, or we come up with, I have to say, from my family, my stoner family, to my sister, family, friends, coworkers, all that. So it's really about, first for me, it's about finding the holiday or the theme of the card that I need. I start with an iconic symbol, so something like as simple as a Santa, but the Kush card twist is making it ho ho hi instead of ho ho ho, certain things like that, or just taking our high wishes card, which is our top selling birthday card, real simple, and turning from, I saw inspiration big wishes and I turned it to high wishes. So it's just kind of, again, taking what's out there and putting it, just the stoner twist on it. But there's so many people that see that and say, I need that for this, and this person. They know exactly who to give it to. So a lot of research, a lot of honey stoner sessions. People call, email, text ideas. When I first started, they were like, this is that. So one day I will do something where every card I say kind of how it happened. But but also everything that these guys have said as well, research, customer feedback. For me, it's also really important where the pre-roll goes on the card. That's something that I've noticed over time, like which cards sell the best.
Yeah, so listen to the customer.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think that's like, if you're not doing that as a business, then you're failing.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So it seems like, feedback is obviously a huge part of you guys' decision making. I feel like as a brand new startup, when it's just you in your garage or your basement, that's probably a lot easier because you have a lot more time to dedicate to stuff like that. As your business grows and gets bigger and bigger and you have more stuff on your plate as a CEO and as a founder, how do you continue to keep that relationship with the customer? Do you do that? Do you kind of rely on your team? Do you build around you more for that? Or how do you keep that grassroots connection as a startup?
You hire people that are smarter than you and quicker than you in certain places. I outsource designers a little bit more because I have the creative vision, but I don't necessarily have the time to dedicate to designing each card. But that is what makes my company. So I spend just as much time with the design brief, I would say, that then gives to a designer. But I would also still pack orders myself, and that has helped me, look at the product to make it better. It helps me think of new cards. It helps me think of new ideas. So I think really my connection is still grassrooting it every day, every night, completing orders, and that night shift is real. So.
Yeah, I'd say, as far as like, having to scale up, basically as a company that sells to someone like Gustavo, a distributor, as we're growing and we have relationships with people that are also invested in our products, it creates a relationship that, basically instead of us having to necessarily go out and interview 100 people, we now have our smoke shops and people that carry our products turning around and then delivering that feedback directly from the customer. So it's, in a way, it almost kind of gets better with time. I mean, I think initially it's like taking shots in the dark and you're trying to just figure out a bit like a concept, like, okay, like, will this work? Will this work? And then once you can start to get more into your target market and engage with them, they'll, ultimately, I think, give you ideas. And that's one of the things in the cannabis industry that I think is probably the coolest thing about, selling to cannabis users is that, people are very creative. People will message me ideas using my product in ways I've never used.
Right?
And then I'm like, I didn't even know I can do that. And it's like, now I can advertise that it also does this,
right.
Or something along those
Adding
lines.
social media, I'm sure you guys are really great at that, just putting it out there, asking, hey, what do you guys think of this? Do you want this holiday? Do you want this spray?
Right. Buy samples and then put them on your social media, and then basically if people are like, this is awesome, then
you have to figure it out. You just figure it out.
Right. And if you don't have anyone, I think it's like at the end of the day, if you're an entrepreneur and you have an idea for a product, if you're too afraid to like tell someone about it, then you're probably not gonna go through with starting it, because if you really believe in the concept and that problem that you're solving, you're going to be confident enough to, you should be confident enough and not feel afraid to say, hey, like, random person on the street, what do you think about this? Or like, if you smoke weed, what do you think about this for weed, you know? And it's like, I think, again, it's just like, you know, having as many inroads to that process as you can is good, and having social media is an even better tool for that. So, you know, that's like, once you can be more established, you can get more feedback and ultimately, you know, feedback from your customers and feedback from your clients as well, you know, for all sorts of things. So in the product scheme, I think if you're looking at like relationships, if you're pursuing a B2B channel where you have someone that is you know, buying your product and basically reselling it for you, you have to think of them as a crucial part of your business, and having like a partnership in that side where you're really, you know, you want to have every idea of what's going on in their brain, what's selling for them, you know, how their business is kind of performing, so that you can, you know, basically be, you know, additive to that. You know, it has to be where you work together, versus like e-commerce. If you can use e-commerce advertising, which none of us can, that's the one thing too. You know, it's another way to reach directly to the, you know, consumer. But in cannabis, I feel like that's a big struggle, as well as, you know, being able to use traditional advertising methods, where if I'm selling soap, I can just create a Facebook ad, I can target it, and I can do all these things that make it so easy to actually get to that end consumer. And I can see through the click-through rate, through, you know, all these metrics that are out there for normal businesses, and we don't really get any of that stuff. So it's, you know, there's a lot of different ways.
10 times harder creating content, creating things. You know, I can't show pre-rolls on my cards if I go on TikTok, because it'll take me down. Take me 100% down. Ads on Instagram, if I promote an ad with my one-hitter, paraphernalia, taken down. So Google ads, Pinterest, taken down. So I definitely agree. But something else I thought of with the creative process is, I always think about the person who doesn't consume cannabis, how they are buying it. Because I think what all three of us do is we connect the cannabis user and the non-cannabis user, right? So for me, you might have a mom buying a card for their son or daughter, which is totally okay because they're all open, and weed is legal in how many states now? So I think that really helps me think about that, and then I can help educate my store owners or retailers and say, hey, you know, merchandise this card with anything you would merchandise it with, so they don't even look past it. Don't make that small cannabis section in your store weird and awkward. Make it opening and inviting, and cross merchandise with the Blazy Susan and a Kush card and all the things I'm sure you have. So,
Well, for me, my story is a little bit different, because as a distributor, we don't really have that B2C. So we're B2B. So we rely a lot with customers like telling us, hey, look, there's this product out there. Same thing with us researching what other companies are bringing out. So keeping up with companies like, you know, Blazy's, Kush cards, all that, to see what they have new, and we have to get it first. That way our customers can get it right away. So it's a little bit different. Definitely social media does help to see what's out there, but we never really get to know what the consumer wants to do, unless like the stores are telling us, hey, look, this is the feedback from the customer. They don't want this. And so some of the products that we have made are based on what those customers have told us. You know, like one of the things that has been said is like, cannabis consumers is creative, and they are. They'll come up with crazy ideas, and so that's pretty much how we make products.
So that makes me think, I guess, you know, when it comes to decision making about what you're going to bring in, or what you're going to start making, or what you're going to bring on board, you know, obviously the customer's always right, but you can't take every idea and go and make it a full fleshed out SKU in your inventory, or you can't bring on every single brand that a store asks you for. So how do you, at the end of the day, you know, beyond just a margin, what makes you choose to bring on a product, or what makes you want to work with a specific company other than just the bottom line?
I always say, first off, stay in your own lane. I feel like, you know, whatever you make, focus on. Like for me, I was trying to make water bottles, a cannabis greeting card company, which down the line I could, but I just realized I just went into glass and plastic when I thrive off of all paper goods. So anything paper related, that's why I went into gift bags and tissue paper, because it was my angle. If anyone were to do it, Kush Card should be the one to come out with cannabis gift wrap and things like that. So I really just think it what works for you, what works for the niche that you're in /created, and just yeah, just kind of going with what works. We've all had things that don't work though, so that was my water bottle moment.
I would say, we're sort of like a more of a lifestyle brand. So we started with one product, and then intentionally set out to kind of put more products on top of that. So we build the tray, and then we build everything that you put on it. Eventually, is sort of our vision. So for us, there was a lot of throwing stuff at the wall and seeing if it sticks.
Samples.
And the samples, and the dab tools. Unfortunately, it's like when you're starting up and you're running on like credit cards and very limited personal funds, you have to be very careful, because let's say you invest in something and then it takes you like a year to sell it all. That hurts. When you're an entrepreneur, and cash flow is super important. So ultimately, I think like in our brand, we kept trying to throw things at the wall and see what stuck. And we found like a really good core business in rolling papers and products like along those lines. So for us, we're trying to stay in our lane and really laser focus on the products that are doing well for us.
And pink, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, pink is your thing. I mean, if you see a pink paper, it's going to be suited. So I think that's a great angle too. Like the pink Q-tips, right? Dab cleaners, things.
Yeah. So basically, we also like basically took our branding and applied it to a lot of other existing products in the industry. And then, like Gustavo said, you take one thing and you can kind of improve it and say, hey, you might have been buying Q-tips, and that's actually, it's funny because like that's like that was the product that I really developed, beyond the tray overseas. So like working with a foreign, basically a foreign person who doesn't speak English very well. Sometimes they speak English better, and that's kind of the thing where you're talking about trial and error, how to decide what to add on next.
Right.
You have to make sure that the factory is reliable. You have to like kind of feel that out.
They could go great, and then you are just really trying to figure out what manufacturer to use and lead times and everything. So.
Or if something goes south, like you have another one of those guys that you can call right now and have them finish that or reproduce that order for you. So like I think at the end of the day, it's like if there's if the margin is there, right? Like how quickly can you get it? What are the minimum order quantities to get certain?
Yeah, minimum order, sure.
That's, I mean, we could talk all day about it.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Since we're all buying, we're all white labeling, we're doing all these things, and it's like at the end of the day, you have to find that right manufacturing partner, and if that person isn't you, you really have to vet them and make sure like you're going to be reliable, because ultimately if you're going to invest money into it,
because if you have a buyer, if you have a mass market customer coming and they need it by a certain time and you're scrambling, it's lost opportunity. So I've definitely learned from that as well.
Yeah. Oh, well, for me, we have to carry the leading brand. But at the same time, we give opportunities to smaller companies. And it's just mainly because they have a better product than most. And so, I'll get a time I can give it. I don't mean to patronize Will, but when Will came to me, I saw the paper. It was different from anything in the market, and we gave it an opportunity to bring it in. And now it's one of our top-selling papers. And at the beginning, it was one item where Will said that, like cash flow is important. So, if an item stays there, sometimes you're like, okay, this is eating up rent. This is eating up everything else. So, I mean, definitely, I would always give a chance to a product if it's better. Not necessarily always margin conscious, because for us, volume is the name of the game.
Right. Do you sell a lot of lower price items or less higher price items?
We mix.
Mix and match?
It's a mixture. So our consumers will find anything from low cost to high end.
So actually, I kind of want to ask you a question, because I feel like this is a good thing, that people, if you're watching this and you're trying to sell to a distributor, being able to understand like where their sweet spots are, and like what, there's so many things I think that we've seen when you look at like, okay, what's your average order size look like? Are you trying to sell a $500 thing, with 10 products in it? Or are you trying to sell, a $100 thing or a $50 thing with 50 things in it? Ultimately, I think like with the distributor, you have a certain appetite for risk. That's like if you're bringing on a new product, if it's expensive, and it's a niche product, like you're probably less likely to bring it on, right? Unless it's like a groundbreaking product, right?
Yeah, sometimes, but I mean, it all depends on the person that's selling it.
Mm-hmm.
The person that sells it will, if someone's pushy with me, I don't want to deal with you. My perspective from that is that your product probably doesn't sell, so you're trying to get rid of it. And that's what I feel. So if you're being pushy, I feel like there's something wrong with your product. And if they know as much information about the product that they're trying to sell, that's what convinces me. If you don't know what you're talking about and you just like ran by a script or anything like that, the chances are that I won't deal with you. There's companies that, you know, they're pretty decent sized companies that we have customers that they ask us for their product, and because of the sales rep that is on our region, I won't bring it in.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So sometimes it's about the price, but for me mainly it's the relationship.
Right. That's great.
Yeah.
So just a heads up, everybody, it looks like we have about 15 minutes left or so. If anybody has any questions for our panelists here, go ahead and send them into the chat, and we'll kind of wrap up the last 5 or 10 minutes with those. I'm just going to ask them a few more questions while those flood in, if there is any. So yeah, just go ahead and send those in the chat. But I guess that last, you know, little conversation there made me think, for any of the, you know, young up and coming cannabis maker entrepreneurs that might be watching this right now, you know, that might want to get their products into the hands of somebody like you, Gustavo. Obviously the product is important and the relationship is super important. What other advice would you maybe give somebody trying to bring that product to market? I know that's kind of broad and we've talked about a lot of that, but you know, maybe if you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice 5 years ago, what do you think, maybe from a, you know, an X's and O's, like actual technical business logistics standpoint, or from just like an abstract, like motivational standpoint, what do you kind of wish you could have told yourself a few years back when you were getting this whole thing started?
Wow, so much. First, I will say, don't take things personal. It's taken me a long time to come to this mindset, just of simple things. I mean, a lot of that is towards social media, yes, but a lot of it also is towards knockoffs coming in, you know, them trying to get you, or just everything. If someone says no, if a distributor says no, you know, just don't take it personal. Reevaluate why they told you that feedback. I love feedback always, and then take it and run from there, because your first impression is everything. I love going to trade shows because I get to talk to the person. I get to talk to the buyer. They get to meet me, and I'm totally a Kush card. I love me, and I love cards. So they feel it right away. And I walk through my designs, my products, and I educate them on why they need it. So when they see it, they have like 5 seconds to think yes or no, and most of them immediately think yes, because of the way that I presented myself. And to a distributor who helps benefits companies like us dramatically, if they are not with it, I let them come back to me. So I'll be at every trade show until they say, wow, like she's been around for a year, or wow, this distributor has that, or wow, she's in Canada, Australia now, I should bring them in. So I say patience, don't take it personal, and so much more. Well, I'll give that on to Will.
Great. I agree with so much of what she said, especially you know, looking at like a B2B trade show, sort of a you know, being there 1 year, being there the next year. Eventually, if you stick around long enough, you know, people will accept you, and that's sort of the thing. Like in our business, you know, starting a new brand in the cannabis community, it was one of those things where we just kept showing up to events and giving product out. So, you know, for me,
samples.
yeah,
Okay.
give out stuff. If you can afford to give it out, then that's really helpful.
So many, yeah, you can.
You know, and being able to, yeah, again, like not take things too personally, and at the same time also, one of the big things that I learned was sometimes I would get very caught up on a particular distributor or event or, you know, product that I had an idea for, and I would let certain things take up a lot of my time that weren't necessarily in my laser focus of my core business. So, you know, trying to be more focused. If you're making this product, make that product and focus on it and make it the best you can, get it as cheap as you can.
And then move on.
Exactly. Once it's in every store across the world, you know, then you can really feel good about moving on to something else. and not overextending yourself in other ways, because at the end of the day, there's limited cash flow. That's a problem that you're going to run into in the cannabis industry, getting banks to lend to you. So if you try to start out and do 20 different things at once, you're probably going to run into a lot of logistical issues and just headaches. So
I also say pricing too. So for someone like a distributor, think about your pricing and then also distributor pricing. So then we're not going back and forth, and they're to get the price down low, and then most makers are like, yeah, okay, cool, we'll go there, and then you're like doing all this work late at night, making no money, but of course for the opportunity. But you really can never raise your price when you give someone a certain price. So I always say when you design your product and you begin to make it, price it first and then go from there. So.
Right. Yeah. Price is everything. If you don't have a pricing strategy, if you don't know where your market sits in the market, like for me, it was pretty easy for rolling papers, and say, hey, I know most rolling papers selling for $2, so I need to. The store has to make this margin. You just have to know, like in that value chain, where people are making money and what's the standard. And if you can beat that, then that's going to really help you out. But at the same time, you have to be competitive unless you have something that at the end of the day no one has. But you're making it harder on yourself. And if you have to have almost like if I came to you and then it was like, oh, I want to charge you a lot more, you're probably not going to want to negotiate with a brand you've never heard of. So like even just making someone waste their time and have to like go back and forth with you on pricing, you may have just hurt your first impression. Whereas if you are treating it like you're going to make money, I'm going to make money, everyone's going to make money, then that's the best way to do it.
And every industry is small, so keep your pricing the same. Don't switch it up because distributors cost. I'm sure. I don't know what to do, but I think
our industry, regardless of the size of whether East Coast, West Coast, is small. We all know it. We all know everybody. But just to touch base on like the pricing stuff, always keep, like if you want to avoid negotiation, there's always 4 tiers: distro, master distro, wholesale, and retail. If you have those 4 tiers, people will negotiate with you. They'll stay with that. But
Do you have any questions?
No.
Yeah, we got a couple questions in here. I got one more for you guys really quick, and then we only have a couple here, and then we'll wrap it up. This is a super abstract one. So, what does success mean to you at the end of the day? Beyond, making money. What else does success mean to you? Like how, 50 years from now, if you are still running your company, what will make you feel good about it other than the money you've made during your time running it?
For me, I think it's the moments that that are created with cards every day when I ship them out, and especially when I get like a birthday card and a gift bag, I'm like, oh my God, someone's about to get a gift. But also I think my mission with Kush Cards 5 years in now is that I want to leave a brand when I'm not here anymore. I want to leave this brand so people are still buying cards and pre-rolls way past me, 50, 100 years. 1,000 years. That's it. Check to me.
Kush Cards 30/30.
That's it.
I'd say for me, success is being able to, continue to work for myself. I quit my job in 2017 after kind of working for another company, and being able to like work for a startup, I think is, if you're on the fence about if maybe this isn't the right time, maybe you're not about to launch a product, but you should go work for a startup before you do your own thing, because you will learn so much more.
You'll see if it's for you or not.
And then, you'll
not be.
you'll see if it's for you or not. And if it is for you, then you'll say, wow, I just learned how to do like all this stuff, and it's gonna really like be exciting. And I think, success is if I can still be like my own boss. And then, at the end of the day, I think that's a lifestyle choice that, if you're interested in becoming an entrepreneur, that's ultimately that freedom is what I think a lot of people want.
Well, for me, it will be through my company be able to help others. So if my company becomes successful, and when it does, I want to make sure that I can help others. And if I'm able to help either financially or help someone actually start their own company, that's when I feel that I actually succeeded. So then I got to keep working.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't we all? All right. So I guess we got a couple quick ones from the crowd here. Somebody wants to know how they can sign up for our newsletters. I know for Blazy, ours is on our homepage, blazysusan.com. Is it kushcards.com?
Kushcards.com. Yep.
Do you have one, Bronco?
Unfortunately, since we don't want to advertise to consumers, no.
All right, so no Bronco newsletter for you, but you can get the rest of us.
This is exclusive content right
Yeah.
now.
And then these two kind of go together, and I don't know if they're necessarily directly related to our businesses, but kind of weed in general. Somebody said, could I incorporate fitness in weed? I don't know if they mean from a business angle or just a personal angle. And then somebody else said something about smoking weed and losing weight. So, I mean, personally, I think that fitness and weed have a lot of overlap. I know when I was working in the CBD industry, we worked with a lot of athletes. And I know that a lot of athletes use cannabis, and, you know, you don't need to be a pro athlete to benefit from it. So personally, I think that there's a business angle there for sure.
So I actually I'm starting something called Kush Cardio with a K.
Ooh.
Funny that this came up because I'm all about smoking the Kush before a little cardio. And
True.
honestly, for me, I think yes to all those questions. Weight loss, I don't know, because there's like a munchy aspect to smoking weed, but it's questionable.
We actually,
That's all about self-control, but honestly, working out, I think like bong rips and bench presses, abs and dabs, all day.
You gotta trademark that.
So listen. Yeah, we didn't touch on that topic, but yeah. I say it's a go. I do it every day. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah. Before I give this little outro, does anybody have anything they want to add at all?
I'll just say, you know, thank you guys for listening, and if there are any other questions, just like feel free to hit us up, and you know, if it's something where you have a good idea, and you know, just tell people about it, and don't be afraid. Get out there and actually like prove the concept. Don't just sit on it and think that you're a genius. You have to go out there and prove it to the world and to yourself, and that's what you owe yourself as an entrepreneur.
Right, and don't be afraid to reach out, and if you want to collab, we're cool. We're cannabis companies, but that doesn't mean there's anything wrong.
Yeah, all about the collabs.
All about the collab.
Awesome. Well, I think that went great. I know I learned a lot just sitting here, so I hope that everyone at home did too. I definitely want to say a big thank you to the three of you, Gustavo Pop, Will Brakel, Lauren Mealy. You guys are awesome. That was great. You guys have great companies, and I think that any aspiring entrepreneur could definitely learn a lot by paying attention and learning some lessons from you guys. So thank you for your time. We definitely want to thank Denver Startup Week as well for this opportunity. I know we all had a great time doing this, and we would love to be back next year. And definitely thank you to Michael Ostro as well for inviting us and for really helping me get this all set up. So if anybody has any questions or any ideas or just wants to, have a conversation with any of us, where can they contact you guys? What's the best way to get in touch?
I would say social media for sure. Our Instagram's at Kushcards, which is also kushcards.com.
Kushcards with a K.
Yeah, with a K.
Yeah, and I would say, hit us up at believeyoussuesme.com. We've got an email, and also our Instagram as well is a great place to get in touch.
At broncodistribution.com.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Sweet. Well,
right.
I think that does it for us.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, everybody, once again. Enjoy the rest of Denver Startup Week, and